I've never been one to jump to conclusions, but looking back now, I see all the signs that I was blind to at the time. My wife, Lisa, and I had been together for almost 10 years. We got married young, started a family, and for a long time I thought everything was fine. She's always been a bit of a diva, demanding, bitchy sometimes, but I loved her, and I assumed she loved me back. Our daughter, Emily, was about to get married. It was supposed to be a beautiful family celebration. We'd been planning this wedding for months, and I was proud of how everything was coming together. Lisa had been her usual self, pushy, always wanting things her way, making sure she looked perfect and throwing her weight around. But that's who she is, right? Or at least I thought I knew her. The signs of trouble started subtly. She'd go out more often without telling me where, coming back late, acting sneaky. She'd get defensive if I asked questions, brushing it off with her usual bitchy attitude, telling me I was overthinking or that I was paranoid. It was almost like she enjoyed pushing me away just enough to keep me guessing. Still, I convinced myself she was just stressed or busy with wedding stuff. Then came the night before the wedding. Emily's rehearsal dinner was supposed to be a joyous thing, a family event with all our friends and relatives. But I couldn't shake this feeling that something was off. Lisa was being especially snippy that night, snapping at Emily, giving her that bitchy look whenever she tried to talk to her mom. I noticed her glancing at her phone more than usual, hiding it quickly when I looked her way. I didn't think too much of it, though. I was exhausted from the week of wedding preparations. That evening, I decided to check the hotel receipts from the wedding planner's booking. I had no reason to suspect anything, just being thorough, right? But what I found made my stomach sink. There on the receipt was a charge for a room at the hotel where the rehearsal dinner was held. The name was Lisa, though. It was for someone named Mike, with a date that was the same night as the rehearsal dinner. I stared at it for a long moment, wondering if I was imagining things. I checked again just to be sure. There was no mistake. My heart started pounding. Who the hell was Mike? It wasn't just a coincidence. This was the hotel where Lisa told me she was going to meet her sister for some last-minute dress shopping. But she'd lied. I knew she was lying. The evidence was right there in front of me, staring me in the face. I never would have guessed she'd do something like this. Not right before the wedding, not to me. I sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process what I'd just seen. My mind was racing. Was she really cheating on me? With her best man, no less. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak swirling inside. How had it come to this? We'd been through so much, and now, the one thing I thought I could count on was crumbling before my eyes. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I had to be careful. This was going to blow up in ways I couldn't even imagine. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the moments I'd missed, all the times I felt she was hiding something. The betrayal cut deep. It wasn't just about the affair, but about the fact that she'd been lying to me for so long. I kept asking myself, how could I have been so blind? How did I not see this coming? And most of all, was our marriage even salvageable after this? The thought of losing everything, my family, the trust, the future we'd planned, made me feel sick. But I also knew I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. I had to decide what I was going to do. Because now I was certain. Lisa wasn't the woman I thought she was, and everything was about to change. The next morning I felt like I had been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was in knots. I knew I couldn't keep pretending like I hadn't seen what I saw, so I decided I needed some space before I confronted her. I didn't want to do it in a moment of rage or desperation. But at the same time, I couldn't keep pretending that everything was normal. Lisa was still asleep when I got up. She looked peaceful, like she hadn't a care in the world, but I saw through her. The way she glanced at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she snapped at Emily for no reason, she was hiding something. I was done playing nice. I was going to get to the bottom of this because I deserved the truth. I waited until she woke up, then casually brought up the hotel receipts. At first she dismissed it, acting all bitchy and defensive. "Oh, it's nothing, just a business thing. You're reading too much into it." Her voice was sharp and her eyes darted around as if she was trying to come up with a lie on the spot, but I didn't buy it. "No, Lisa," I said, keeping my voice steady, even though inside I was furious. "I saw the receipt. You stayed at that hotel the night before Emily's wedding with Mike. Who the hell is Mike? She scoffed, rolling her eyes. You're insane. You're just paranoid because you're nervous about the wedding. I swear you always jump to conclusions. Maybe I met someone for a drink, or maybe I was just there for work. You don't know everything, so stop accusing me. That was her go-to: deny, lie, deflect. She had 100 excuses ready. I'd heard her do it before, but this time I wasn't buying it. I pushed harder. Stop lying. I saw the charge, Lisa. You lied about where you were. You lied about meeting your sister. And now I find out you're cheating on me with your best man, Mike. She glared at me, her lips pressed into a thin line. You're crazy, she hissed. You've been accusing me of everything lately. Maybe you're the one cheating. Maybe you've been sneaking around too. That hurt more than I expected. The betrayal wasn't just her cheating, it was her turning everything around, making me doubt myself. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I knew I had to stay calm. I told her I knew about her affair, and if she wanted to save whatever was left of our marriage, she better come clean. Her eyes flashed with anger. Fine, she said, her voice dripping with contempt. Yes, I cheated, happy now. I was tired of pretending everything was perfect. I was bored, and Mike, he's different, he's exciting, better than your boring ass. What do you want from me, huh? A perfect wife? Well, I'm not perfect, and I don't owe you anything anymore. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I'd always tried to be a good husband. I worked hard, paid the bills, tried to be there for her and Emily. And this was the thanks I got: betrayal, lies, and her bitchy attitude like she didn't care at all. I felt a mix of anger and sadness flooding through me. But what really tore me apart was how calm she was, like she didn't regret a thing. Like she was proud of her little secret. I looked at her, trying to find the girl I married, the girl I still loved in some part of me, but all I saw was someone I didn't recognize. Someone who had turned into a stranger, capable of lying and cheating right in front of me. I wanted to scream, to shout at her, to make her see the pain she was causing. But I also knew that I couldn't just react. I had to think, plan my next move, because I'd been betrayed. And I was angry and hurt, and I needed to decide how to handle this once and for all. After she finally admitted everything, I felt like my world was crashing down around me. For a while, I sat there in stunned silence, trying to process what she just said. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, or at least thought I loved, had just confessed to cheating on me with her best man, right before our daughter's wedding. It was like a punch to the gut, a betrayal so deep I didn't even know how to breathe. Lisa was still sitting there, acting like it was no big deal, like she just told me she liked her coffee extra sugar. That's when I realized I had to do something, and fast. I couldn't let her get away with this, at least not without making her realize she'd crossed a line. I wasn't the type to get violent or scream and shout, but I was furious, and I knew I had to come up with a plan, something cold, something calculated. I told her I needed some time alone to think. She rolled her eyes, but I didn't care. I needed to get my head straight, figure out what I was going to do next. I left the house, went for a drive, and just kept thinking about everything. My mind kept circling back to the fact that my wife, the person I trusted most, had been screwing around with my best man at the worst possible time, right before the wedding that was supposed to be the happiest day of Emily's life. While I was out, I started making some calls. Trusted friends, someone who could help me figure out how to respond. I needed proof, more than just her confession. I wanted to see if I could catch her in another lie or get her to slip up. I knew Lisa's kind, bitchy, manipulative, good at hiding things when she wanted to, so I had to be smart about this. I also started looking at her phone, her emails, anything I could get my hands on. I wasn't going to leave this to chance. That night I came back home and she was still there, acting like nothing had happened. I knew I couldn't confront her again right then. Instead, I decided to lay low, keep my emotions in check, and watch. I needed to see how she behaved around Mike, whether she was still sneaking around or if she was already trying to cover her tracks. Over the next few days, I watched her. She was colder, more bitchy than usual, snapping at Emily and giving me these sideways glances. I caught her texting late at night, hiding her phone when I came near. I found a few more receipts that confirmed she'd been at the hotel with Mike, both the night before the wedding and on the day of the rehearsal dinner. She lied about everything, again and again. In a way, I felt a strange sense of calm. I'd gone from shock to anger to determination. I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without consequences. I was already planning my next move. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I was going to do it with everything I'd uncovered. I couldn't just walk away. I needed her to understand just how much she'd hurt me, and how serious I was about putting an end to this. Meanwhile, the wedding day loomed closer, and I felt like I was walking around in a fog, unsure of what the future held. Part of me wanted to call everything off, to grab Emily and leave. The other part was furious, vengeful, determined to make her regret ever betraying me. I started thinking about ways to expose her to everyone, her lies, her cheating, everything. I didn't want her to walk away unscathed. She made her bed, and now I was ready to make her pay. All I knew for sure was that my marriage was shattered, and every moment I spent pretending everything was fine only made it worse. I had to face her again, and this time I was going to make sure she paid for what she'd done. It was no longer about love or trust. It was about justice, about making her see that she couldn't just cheat and lie her way through life without consequences. And I was going to be the one to deliver them. The day of the wedding arrived, and it felt like I was walking through a nightmare. Every time I looked at Emily, I saw her innocence, her happiness, and I wondered how much of it was going to be shattered because of her mother. Lisa was acting even more bitchy than usual, snapping at everyone, throwing fits over tiny things, trying to control every detail. I saw her fussing with the decorations, clearly trying to look perfect, but there was a coldness in her eyes I didn't like. I kept my distance from her mostly, pretending to be the ever-loving husband, but inside I was seething. I'd uncovered enough to know what she was capable of, and I was just waiting for the right moment. I had made arrangements to have someone follow her, to keep tabs on her during the reception, and I had a plan to confront her in front of everyone if necessary. The ceremony itself was beautiful in a way. Emily looked stunning, radiant, and I managed a small smile for her sake, but my mind was elsewhere. My heart was pounding with a mix of anger, betrayal, and a strange sense of the finality of it all. Lisa, meanwhile, was all smiles and fake sweetness, until she caught me looking at her too intently. That bitchy smirk she threw in my direction was almost a sneer. During the reception, I slipped away for a minute and checked my phone. Sure enough, I had a message from the person I'd hired to follow her. They'd seen her get into a car with Mike, just like I suspected, her at his place, in the hotel parking lot, like everything was normal. I felt a surge of sick satisfaction. She thought she was slick, hiding her tracks, but I was always 2 steps ahead. That's when I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. I knew I'd have to confront her in front of everyone, or just let her dig her own grave. I was going to be the one to expose her, to show her that her lies and betrayal weren't going to go unpunished. I waited until Emily was busy greeting guests, then approached Lisa, who was flirting with some of the guests, that bitchy, sneering look on her face. "Lisa," I said softly but firmly, "can we talk in private?" She looked at me with that fake smile, trying to brush me off. "What now? Can't you see I'm busy?" I cut her off. "No, this is important. It's about the hotel receipts, the hotel where you stayed the night before the rehearsal dinner. The night you lied about where you were, and the guy you were with. I know everything, Lisa, and I'm done pretending I don't." Her face froze for a second, then she blinked, trying to play it off. "You're overreacting. You're just jealous because you're scared I'll leave you. Honestly, I don't care what you think anymore." I stepped closer. "No, you listen, I've seen enough. I know you cheated on me with Mike right before Emily's wedding. I know you've been lying to my face for months, and I can't just ignore it anymore. So if you want to lie some more, go ahead, but I'm done. I want a divorce. And I want the truth from you, every damn lie you've told." Her eyes flashed with anger, her voice rising. "You're nuts. You're always accusing me of stuff. Maybe you're the one cheating. Ever think about that?" That hit me hard. It was classic Lisa trying to turn it around, making herself the victim, but I wasn't falling for it anymore. I stared at her, feeling a mixture of rage and heartbreak. The woman I married, the mother of my child, was a cheat, a liar, a manipulator, and I'd had enough. I told her I was leaving, right then and there, to get my Head clear, she looked at me with disdain, sneering. Go ahead, leave, see if I care. You're too blind to see what's really going on anyway. I walked away from her, my stomach churning. I didn't want a scene in front of everyone, but I knew I'd have to face the music eventually. I had the proof, I had the plan, and I was determined to end this mess once and for all, because I'd been betrayed, shattered, and now I was ready to take back my life. I'd never been so hurt, so angry, and so determined to make her regret what she'd done. The wedding was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it was the beginning of my fight to get my dignity back. That night, after the reception died down and most of the guests had left, I finally decided I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. I found a quiet corner away from the crowd, pulled out my phone, and called the person I'd hired to follow Lisa. I needed to hear it straight from someone who was watching her, to be absolutely sure. The voice on the other end confirmed what I already suspected. Lisa had been with Mike at his hotel, just like I saw on the receipts, and she wasn't even trying to hide it. Hearing that, something inside me snapped. All the pain, all the betrayal, suddenly turned into a cold, burning resolve. I knew I had to act fast. My mind raced through options: confront her again, take her aside and make her face the truth, or maybe just let everyone find out on their own. But I realized I couldn't just walk away from this without making her pay. She'd spent years lying, manipulating, sneaking around. It was time for her to see that her actions had consequences. I discreetly slipped away from the party, found a quiet spot outside, and started drafting what I was going to say. I wasn't planning to make a scene. I just wanted her to know I'd seen enough. That I knew. I needed her to understand that her lies and cheating had crossed a line she couldn't come back from. I also made a mental note to look into legal options, to protect myself and Emily from any more damage she might try to do. While I was planning, I saw her walking out of the hotel with Mike, arms around each other, that look in her eyes that I'd seen too many times before, that mixture of arrogance and guilt. I watched her and felt a strange mixture of hatred and sadness. She was the same bitchy woman who had once been my wife, but I saw through her now. She thought she was so clever, so untouchable, but I was done playing her game. It was time to take control. The next morning, instead of rushing into a confrontation, I decided I'd get the evidence I needed first: copies of the hotel receipts, her texts, anything that could serve as undeniable proof. I called my lawyer, laid out everything, and started preparing for what was next. I knew I was going to have to confront her again, but this time I'd be ready. I refused to be played anymore, and I knew I had to do what was best for me and Emily, no matter how much it hurt. As I looked at her sleeping there that morning, I felt a strange calm settle over me. No more denial, no more pretending. I'd faced the truth, and now I was going to deal with it. The betrayal was complete, but I wasn't going to let her destroy what was left of my dignity. I'd make sure she paid for her lies, and I'd move on, better, stronger, and finally free from the poison she'd brought into my life. I was done with her bullshit, and I was ready to take back control. The day I finally confronted Lisa with everything was one of the most intense moments of my life. I didn't yell, I didn't scream, at least not outwardly. I just laid out all the evidence I had gathered: the hotel receipts, her secret texts, the timeline I'd pieced together from the surveillance reports. I watched her face twist from her usual bitchy smirk to panic, then to outright rage. She tried to deny everything, of course, but she knew she was caught, completely exposed. I told her I was done. Done with her lies, her bullshit, her manipulations. I told her I was filing for divorce and that I would make sure she never hurt me or Emily again. Her eyes widened and she spat out some of her typical lies. You're crazy. You're overreacting. You don't have proof, but I had everything. Nothing she said could change what I knew was true. The aftermath was a whirlwind. I moved out of the house a few days later, taking only what I needed, leaving her to deal with the wreckage she created. Emily was devastated, of course. She loved her mother, who wouldn't? But she also saw the truth in her father's eyes. I sat her down, explained what had happened in a way she could understand, and told her we'd get through it together. I promised I would always be there for her, no matter what. Lisa predictably tried to spin everything, twisting the story to make herself the victim. She threw tantrums, yelled at me, and tried to get Emily on her side, but it was all hollow. Everyone saw her for what she was, an unfaithful, manipulative woman who thought she could cheat her way through life. Her reputation took a big hit, and she became increasingly bitter and bitchy, trying to control everything around her, but it was no use. Her lies unraveled fast, and she knew it. For me, it was a long road to healing. I went through the stages: shock, anger, sadness, then finally acceptance. I cut all ties to Lisa, blocked her from my life, and focused on my daughter. We started over. I got a new job, reconnected with friends, and most importantly, learned to trust myself again. I realized that some betrayals are so deep that you can't just ignore them or pretend they didn't happen. You have to face the truth head-on, no matter how painful. Looking back, I learned a lot from this mess. Never ignore the little signs, those sneaky glances, the late-night texts, the sudden attitude changes. And don't trust someone who's always bitchy, because sometimes that's just a mask for something darker. Most of all, I learned that revenge isn't about petty payback. It's about standing up for yourself, protecting your dignity, and moving on stronger than before. Now, I'm rebuilding my life. I don't regret what happened because it taught me what real loyalty and honesty look like. I don't wish her any ill will anymore. I just want to be happy, and I want Emily to grow up knowing that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even if the fight hurts. In the end, I came out of this a better man, and I'm finally ready to start fresh, leaving all the pain behind.